Today on Monson Made This, I'm back with another holiday side dish.
Ryan Little.
Welcome to Monson Made This, where I make vegan food. So if you are looking for delicious vegan recipes, definitely subscribe to this channel. And today I am here with the second of my holiday side dish series because Thanksgiving is coming up and I wanted to get you prepared to bring amazing dishes to your omnivore Thanksgiving or vegan Thanksgiving. Last week I made an amazing funeral potato dish, a cheesy hash brown casserole. This week I have a delicious stuffing, but it's not just any old basic stuffing. This is a pecan crusted sweet potato stuffing. So it's so good, it's got a little sweetness, it's savory, and it comes together pretty quickly. First thing we need to do is slice up some bread because stuffing is pretty much all bread. So let's start cutting some bread and I'll tell you a little bit more about this dish. For the bread in our stuffing, I'm using a baguette, which is unfortunately broken in half because I went to the store after going to the gym and was on my bike, so it broke in my bag. But we need about 12 ounces of bread, which is, for this particular baguette, about 3/4 of it. So to slice this, and by the way, look at this baguette, see how sort of like tight the crumb is here. You don't want anything that's too airy, you don't want anything too light. You want it to be sort of this basic white bread kind of texture. You could just use sliced white bread if you wanted. Use a wheat bread, use whatever your favorite bread is. Just, I caution you against anything that's too crusty on the surface and anything that's just too airy in the center. And what I'm doing here is slicing this into little rounds, and then I'm going to stack a few of them, slice the rounds in half, and then into, I guess, little cubes. This bread's a bit soft today, so I'm struggling with it, but I have my oven preheated to 300 degrees, and as soon as I get these all cut up into little cubes, I will put these on a baking sheet and bake them for about 7 minutes at 300 degrees just to dry them out so that they will absorb the delicious broth and flavors that we're putting in this stuffing. Now I'm going to be baking this off or kind of drying it out a little bit in my smart oven, so I'm just using this, I guess it's the air fry basket, but you could just put this on a baking sheet, it doesn't matter. But again, 300 degrees for about 7 minutes. And while that bakes, we'll make the other stuff that's going to go inside, the sweet potatoes, onions, celery, and such a good stuffing. And actually looking at my bread here, the amount that I have, I think I'm going to cut up a little bit more just because it looks a little bit light. When I made this before, when I was testing it, I actually used kind of pre-sliced baguette rounds, the same baguette, but I had bought it pre-sliced at the store. Saved a little money by having to slice it myself here, but just making sure that the amounts are the same as what I tested it with. Okay, that looks pretty good. So again, in the oven, 300 degrees, 7 minutes, and then we'll head over to the stove and cook up the sweet potatoes, onions, celery while that bakes. I have a pan on medium heat, and to that I am just breaking up some Beyond Italian sausage. Now this recipe makes enough for an 8x8 pan. You could double it and have sort of a 9x13, and if you're going to do that, then I would definitely double the sausage. I think this Beyond Italian sausage adds great flavor, great fattiness. If you wanted to make this a little bit lower calorie or wanted to make it more plant-based, you could also do some tempeh, make a tempeh sausage. That way you wouldn't have the oil, but I think that's where all of the flavor comes from for this dish, so it's up to you how you want to go about it. This is just going to brown up for a few minutes, breaking it up into smaller pieces. I'll probably break it up even more with my spatula as I cook, or as they cook. And the idea here is just to get these browned up, render out a little bit of fat, and then we will add a little bit more oil before we add our sweet potatoes and our other veggies. The sausage has been cooking for a couple of minutes and it's nice brown. Also, my bread has dried out nicely, so I just have it kind of hanging out in the oven with the oven off and the door open. I'm gonna put that back on 350 in just a minute, but because I can't really move too many things around right now, I'm just having it hang out in the turned off oven. All right, so the sausage is out of here. I'm gonna add a little bit more oil. Again, it's up to you how much you want to add. And the first veggie I'm going to put in here is the sweet potato. Now you want these to be about maybe like a 1/2 inch cubed. And there's a 1.5 cups here. Of course, the full recipe will be linked below. And so my goal here is just to get these coated in the flavoring, in the oil. And then these are gonna cook for maybe just about 5 minutes. We're not trying to get them brown, but we want the sweet potato to start to tenderize a bit. It will cook a little bit more in the oven, but we don't want any raw potato experiences at all, so we want to start the cooking here. So this is going to go for about 5 minutes just to soften slightly, and then we'll add our celery and onions. So these have been going for about 4 minutes. They're absorbing the flavor, softening up a little bit. Now I'm going to add the onion and the celery. And again, that's 1 celery stalk and just about 1 cup of onions. And then to this, I'm gonna add a pinch of salt. We wanna start seasoning it up as we go. A little bit of pepper. And then I'm going to be adding this turkey rub. This is pretty much just a poultry seasoning. So I'm gonna add just a bit of that. And some red pepper flake. If it seems like things are too dry at this point, which I'm thinking they are for my taste, I'm gonna add just a little bit more olive oil. And I think it's really important, especially if you're trying to appeal to an omnivore crowd. You don't wanna go straight in and start taking out all the oil and all the salt and all the things that they're used to that add flavor. So we're trying to make a really delicious, flavorful dish here that everyone can enjoy without people biting into it and being like, ugh, it's dry. So everything's been going, I guess the potatoes have been here a total of about 10 minutes. The onions and celery are softening up. So I'm just gonna taste a potato. Okay, needs a little bit more salt. I'm gonna let this go probably about 2 more minutes. I'm gonna add the sausage back in before I do that. And just let those potatoes get a little bit softer. Again, they will cook in the oven a bit, but there's nothing worse than biting into a raw sweet potato in the middle of a dish that should otherwise be fully cooked. So we're almost there. It's time to start assembling. I have my breadcrumbs or my cubes of bread all dried out. I'm gonna be adding some dried cranberries, some flax meal as sort of a binder, and I have some vegan chicken broth, and then the roasted veggies behind me, or sauteed veggies, I guess they are. So I'm just gonna dump these all together, stir it, and then we'll add it to the baking dish. I've added just about 1.5 cups of the broth. You'll probably need between 1.5 and 2 cups for this. It just kind of depends on how soft your bread still is or how dry it is. And if you have just kind of a variation in the amount of bread or ingredients here. This is looking pretty good. You want it to be soft to the point where it will kind of stick together or hold together if you were to push on it. And again, that flax in here will mix with the broth and just kind of create just a slight binder so that it's not too crumbly when you serve it, that it'll hold together a little bit. Smells so good. Smells just like Thanksgiving. I think we're good. I think that's the right amount. Again, I'm about, I'll add a little more. We're just a little over 1.5 cups. Next thing to do is just put it into a baking dish, and then we will top it with our pecan crust. So I'm just put this into the baking dish, and I'm pushing it down just a little bit so that, again, when you're serving it, it sticks together a little bit better. Smells amazing. I'm so excited for this. Probably end up eating too many of these Thanksgiving recipes before Thanksgiving actually happens, so that when I go to serve these to other people, I'll be over it myself. But so far, these Thanksgiving sides have been so good. I've been loving the leftovers. All right, so this is ready to have our pecan topping, which is basically just gonna be some chopped up pecans and brown sugar. So this is kind of a combination of a stuffing meets a sweet potato pie. And I'm just gonna sprinkle these pecan pieces on top. It's just about a half cup. You can put as many as you'd like. And the brown sugar is just gonna help give it a little bit of a sweetness to balance out the savoriness of the rest of the dish. And I have about a tablespoon here, but I don't wanna put too much. That's probably good. Got a few more pecans here, might as well just finish it. All right, so I'm gonna cover this with foil, and then this is gonna bake in the oven at 350 for 30 minutes covered, and then I will take the covering off and bake it for about another 15 minutes until things are starting to brown on top and those pecans get a little bit toasted. It's amazing. So let's put it in the oven. My pecan crusted sweet potato stuffing is out of the oven, and it smells amazing. It looks amazing. So let's show you some glamour shots of it before I dig in and taste it. The wait is over. I have served myself a delicious scoop of the stuffing, and truth be told, I scooped it while it was still quite hot, so it didn't stick together just as well. But if you let it sit just a little bit longer, you know, maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes after you take it out of the oven, it definitely will scoop a little bit nicer. But let's give this a taste. If you've ever in your life liked stuffing, this is just like such a cool version of it. Sweet potatoes, the crunchiness from the pecans, the tartness of the cranberries. You get a little bit of the kind of Italian sausage flavoring in the back. It's like the best stuffing I've ever had. Well, I need to slow down because I need to save some of this for my eating show, which is over on monsonmadethis. So if you look in the link below to my Patreon, you can watch that. I think we're up to episode 13, 14 right now, maybe even 15. I'm not sure, but that's where I enjoy my food, a little bit more personal, sort of one-on-one. So if you want to watch those monsonmadethis videos, follow that link to the Patreon below. That's all I have for this week. Thank you all for watching. I probably have about 2 or 3 more Thanksgiving holiday side dishes to go. If you have any suggestions on ones that you would like to see made or veganized, comment below, let me know. One of your recipe ideas could wind up in the next video. So thank you for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you haven't yet already, and subscribe if you haven't yet already. And yeah, stay tuned for more recipes. I'll see you next week. That's all. Bye.